It is, what time is it anyway? I believe it's about 10:30 now. The new moon was at 9:32, I think, tonight. And I understand that there are a lot of Satanists who are doing last minute spell work on the full moon. And I believe that they're trying to do more blood sacrifices, okay? And I am sure that their last minute spell work is going to backfire on them. They will be either arrested soon or they will just drop dead. Okay? They will just drop dead. And I'm good with that. And I did record like a 1 hour and 20-minute video on the cure for spiritual snake bite. So, but, and there is a cure. There is a cure. There is hope for those people who haven't pledged their souls to Satan. But and on the full moon, I just wrote on a piece of paper. I was outside the Empowerment Center and I just wrote, I forgive everybody who's wronged me. And I asked God for forgiveness, and then I crumpled it up and watched the moon and I burned it. And so now is the new moon, and the new moon is when you manifest. I released all those burdens to God. Whatever happens to these people happens to these people. Whatever they wished for us is what's going to happen to them. And unfortunately, that means that those people who wish death spells on me will probably be dead. And it is what it is. Okay. But I'm manifesting now. I'm closing this karmic cycle. I've released all these people. They no longer have access to my energy, and all of their evil spell work is backfiring. And so I am in a position now where I'm manifesting what it was that I wanted to manifest. But I'm in a position where I'm still out living out of my car. And all I get is my Social Security check. And so I got my Social Security check yesterday and it was gone. I spent $1,100 of that to take care of my dog, Charlie. And my original plan was the mission that God had given me, right? How to use my resources to help people. And Charlie was the key to that. And Derek was the key to that. Derek is still in jail. And Derek's trial dates have been postponed because his mother is contesting his competency. She's still hiding the fact that he suffers from epilepsy. And so I talked to the public defender, and the public defender said he needs to be evaluated by a psychologist. And I said, a psychologist is not qualified to assess someone who has a neurological problem like epilepsy. The only person who's qualified to assess them is a neurologist. And so I told him he needs to be assessed by a neurologist because this is what his mother has been hiding all his life. She got extra money for that. I talked to his sister, Angela. And Christine got extra money for Derek as a special needs child for his epilepsy and hid it from everyone. And she kept him interned in jail. The first case he was charged with arson was a setup. It was framed. He was framed by people who were hired by Christine Peete. His baby mama was killed in 2010. It was a hired hit. She was killed in an auto accident along with his 1-year-old daughter. And his daughter was set up twice with rape, and each time the rapist was allowed to go free. The first time, Carmine Marcet did a perp walk. They charged her with as a juvenile, again, criminalizing the victim. And then the second time, they just delivered the rapist home. And that was a setup with Anastasia Tollard, who is the reason why he's in jail now. And so he's still defending himself on this, and they keep postponing it, right? And of course, Miskovich is threatening to send him to prison. Of course, he's covering up for it. They're all covering up for each other, okay? And I know people are watching because I had like 62 views on that public defender's thing. But I am manifesting that he's going to be out of there. He's supposed to be going to Hardy County. And so I'm not going to talk about the Hardy County case. But because I don't want to run it for him. Okay. I have a lot of information in the Hardy County case, and I have every intention of taking them in a civil suit later on, just like Lee County. But for right now, I'm trying to get my husband out of jail. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my idea and why we are in this position. Because in the end, it has to do with the mission that God gave us, which is that we are to be together, healed, helping other people. And Derek and I have something in common besides the fact that we have spiritual gifts, and that is that we're both survivors of narcissistic abuse. Serious narcissistic abusers who were in fact Satanists, willing to sacrifice us. In Derek's case, it is his mother, Christine Sears Peete. And part of her thing is just monetary, right? Because she and he are part of the Calvin Peete Foundation. And she has been trying to get whatever funds she can left out of his inheritance. And and with the two of us together, we both have to be out of the way. Okay. And so I spent more than half of my Social Security on just keeping my dog safe. I tried to keep Charlie with me in my car, but I'm living out of my car. He's a chocolate lab. It's 100 million degrees out here. I thought he was going to die of heat stroke the weekend I had him. I couldn't keep him in the car with me. And so I had to take him back to the kennel to make sure that he's safe. But really what it boils down to is this. Derek is autistic, and he hates it when I say that. Because he thinks that, people are going to think he's retarded. But he's also epileptic. And he has his special needs. But he's a very, very beautiful person. And I'm going to put up pictures of the stuff that he's done and tell you a little bit about his life, because people have been going around saying he's a pedophile, that he's been cheating on me. And I know when he was, when he was with Amanda, he wanted to marry her because she had his son. I don't believe that Amanda's son was actually Derek's. But he's been faithful to me since then. And he's had a lot of narcissistic women chasing him throughout his lifetime. And every narcissistic woman that has come into his life was put there by Christine Sears Peete. And he's a son of Fort Myers, okay? Derek was adopted. His mom died when he was 3. He was, sent around to foster families, and so was his brother Darnell and his 2 sisters. Darnell is actually alive now, I realize. That was all a setup, okay, to make us believe that he was dead. And Darnell didn't do anything to let us know he was still alive, okay. So he played the whole thing too. But in the end, they were carted around, and then, when Christine finally adopted them, because Christine divorced Calvin in 89. She was accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And so she adopted Derek and his brother and his 2 sisters because his grandmother insisted that they were a part of a package deal. But Derek was the special needs child, and she got extra money for his epilepsy, and she chose to hide it. He graduated from Dunbar High School. He played the quads in the marching band. And so earlier this year, we sponsored the Dunbar High School Marching Band, which is the only marching band, by the way, in the whole Fort Myers area that doesn't have a golf cart. They can't afford a golf cart behind them to haul cool drinks. And so Derek was proudly marching in the parades, including the Edison Parade with his scooter, carrying Gatorade and cold water. And this one parade that I'm showing you the video of now is Derek with another volunteer in behind the marching band. Okay, I think the other volunteer, I can't remember her name, but we made her shirt, and her daughter is one of the saxophonists in the band. Just proudly walking behind the band, and so every time we're in the marching band, in the parade, we would buy Gatorade. So we gave him a gift of $3,000, and he was in the marching band playing the quads, and he was also in ROTC. And he was inspired to do that because apparently his birth dad, David McCoy, I think, was in the Marines. And so he enlisted in the Marines. And when he was in the Marines, he worked on the canine unit. He was training with the people in the canine unit in the Marines for a good while. And when he came home on leave, he was involved in some drama with his baby mama and framed for arson and was sent to prison. And so that was really the end of his Marine career. Okay, kicked him out of the Marines, and then from then on he was in jail and in prison. And each time he would get out of jail, he would be involved in a relationship with toxic narcissistic women. But in the end, it really involved dogs, okay? And if you look at people who are autistic, a lot of times they really, really relate to animals, right? And when, an example of that was when I got my money and we got married, we went to Discovery Cove and he got to swim with the dolphins, and that was his dream. And he was just so, so happy because he could communicate with animals. Okay. And so in 2010, he had a relationship with a woman named Brittany Lehman, and she had a 1-year-old daughter named Kristen, and she was pregnant with his second child when she was involved in an auto accident and killed instantly. And he was informed that the baby died as well. And I know his mother was involved in that. Because in the end, it's not enough to question his competency. She has to destroy his heirs. Okay. And so, he worked with Stomp for a while because he could play the drums, right? He was in the Stomp show from I think 2011 to 2012, 2013. And then the show went off tour because of funding. And then he's in and out of jail on all of these cooked up charges. Okay. And stupid stuff like petty theft, trespassing, shit like that. And in the end, he wound up in Knoxville, Tennessee. He didn't even know how he ended up there. I know how he ended up there. Everything is divinely planned. And it has to do with not only his family, but my family. Knoxville, Tennessee. I said, how did you end up in Knoxville, Tennessee? Christine's family was there were some family members from Knoxville, Tennessee, but I also had some distant family members from Knoxville, Tennessee too. So it was no accident that Miss Margaret found him there and nursed him back to health and gave him the gift of prophecy, gave him his cross that he had around his neck the day I met him at the Starbucks, and the text, Mark 11:21-26. Derek had a dog. The dog's name was Abby. And so this is something that Derek and I have in common. We love dogs. When I was a little girl, I had a dog named Shadow. And I felt so bad for Shadow because we lived in Connecticut. And he was chained to a doghouse. My brother would take dog food out, and he wouldn't even give him a separate dish for water. He just put the water in the dog dish. I felt so sorry for Shadow. We had him for so many years, but he was a black lab. And when I bought my house in St. Peter's, I told the realtor I wanted a dog for my daughter with a fenced backyard. I needed a house with a fenced backyard so we could go get a dog. And my daughter and my ex-husband went to the pet adoption agency, and they came home with a black lab named Abby. And when Abby died in 2013, we were devastated. And when we first got Abby, okay, she had just gotten spayed. She'd gotten spayed for, because that was one of the things. They spayed the dogs. And so she couldn't take a shower, or she couldn't take a bath. And so my ex-husband said, well, she has to stay out on the back porch because it's blisteringly hot out on the back porch. And I said, can't she just come inside? Well, she can come inside. It was a split level house, but she has to stay downstairs. And so Abby just stayed downstairs. And she would stay down at the bottom of the stairs. And when people would come in the door, because it was a split level, she would just sit there and wag her tail and wait for people to come down and pet her. She was a lovely dog. I loved her. She was just a wonderful member of the family. And so when she did pass away in 2013, we were crushed. I and my daughter were crushed. The cat was crushed. Okay, the cat loved the dog too. And my ex-husband said, no more dogs. But I always wanted a dog. And he had kind of promised me a dog when we lived out on the property in Buckingham. But it never happened because I left. And when I left, I moved in with Nancy, and I said, Nancy, I'm going to get another dog, and it's going to be another lab. And it's going to be, I'd seen it in a vision. It was going to be a lab named Arthur. I said, male or female. It was waiting for me, my spirit dog. And so at the same time, Derek had a dog named Abby. And he had a relationship with a woman named Renee Campiglione. And she was also a setup from his awful mother. She lived in the apartments, the Broadway apartments, on DeLeon, with Anastasia Tollard, Roger Ludinus, Kayla Moore, and Deja, Christine Pete's biological granddaughter. They all lived in the roach-ridden apartments, okay? And so they all knew Christine. But this woman was terribly toxic. She used the dog. She'd take the dog to the rest stop there and beg for money. And people would give her money for the dog. But in the end, Roger Ludinus's brother, nicknamed Speedy, and she chopped the dog up in retaliation, just to destroy him. And so he got another dog, and he trained her. Her name was Xena, and she was a pit bull, but he was in and out of jail still. And so he ended up having his godmother take care of Xena, and so his godmother really has Xena. He's had her from time to time. He took her to the Home 2 Suites, and Holly 2 Sampson pretended she was her dog, okay? But in the end, he had trained her, but, godmother decided that she wanted to keep Xena, and Xena was happy there. So when we went into the Lotus at the Villages Walk, I was able to get a dog. And so I sent him down to the Gulf Coast Humane Society, and he found Charlie. And Charlie was 7. He's turned 8. And so you can see him. He's a chocolate lab, because I told him it had to be a lab. Okay. And Charlie was the only lab there. And Charlie had been relinquished by his owner after the storm. They said his owner lost the use of his legs, and I since had passed away. And I think I may have even seen Charlie come through the Hertz Arena, because there was a lot of pets that came through the Hertz Arena, very briefly. But I didn't know about Charlie's background as a military dog. It wasn't until we went to the Flea Masters, because we were trying to take him publicly, and he wasn't doing very well in public places, especially at the Flea Masters. He would bark at everyone, and he was visibly upset. And so Derek had said, well, Charlie is afraid of men with construction boots and pit bulls, because his owner was attacked by one. And that may have been so, but when we were walking through the Flea Masters, Charlie was on high alert, and I said to him, you know what? Construction boots and combat boots look remarkably the same. I would not be surprised if this dog was a service dog. And we came to find out that Charlie actually was a service dog. That 5 years before, he had lost his handler overseas to an IED. So Charlie was trained to sniff for cadavers in IEDs. And he was a service dog. He was in the Marines. He had the rank of major. And I knew that Derek was suffering from PTSD too, mostly from a lifetime of abuse by his narcissistic mother and all of the evil women that she put in his path to distract him. Evil narcissistic women, the ones that would chop up his dog. And so when we finally got settled into Lotus at the Village's Walk, Charlie was there with me, and so was Derek. And they were working on training with Canines for Warriors, okay? And that is when, I told him to cut his mother off. And that was kind of the inspiration for my song, Broken Boy. I talked about the story of being a broken boy and wanting to have the love of a mother who was not capable of loving you and longing for that. Because that's really the story of not only Charlie and my husband, but my ex-husband. But in the case of my ex-husband, he made all the wrong choices. And we were doing really well for like a couple of weeks. And then the people at the Lotus at the Village's Walk were in contact with my ex-husband and my brother and drove him out. And so we've kind of been separated from then on. But at one point, he met his mother again. And his mother pretended to be so remorseful. She was sorry for the way she treated us. God had talked to her and told her she was going to have a heart attack if she didn't change her ways. She wished us the happiest of lives. And the whole time Charlie barked at her, which was an indicator right there. Charlie hates a bad spirit. And my husband, Derek, told her about our plans. Our plans were to start raising dogs for soldiers who suffered from PTSD for organizations like caninesforwarriors.org. And I had contacted them. I wanted them to do training with Charlie and Derek, and they did. He went to Montgomery, and that's where he met Anastasia Tollard and her mother Valerie. And Valerie wouldn't let me see her. And yet they extorted us out of like $20,000 because I was paying for it. I was bankrolling the whole thing. I was paying for their hotel room. They said they were from Fort Myers and they needed to get back. Would I pay for their hotel room and their gas? They would follow Derek down in the U-Haul with Charlie. And they pretended to take care of Charlie, charging me $100 a day. And then after 2 days, they dump him off at the kennel, okay? They wanted to be my caregiver. She was pretending to be with someone else, Gloria, at the time, in the hotel room at the La Quinta, when it was when Roxy Blair, registered sex offender, okay, was working at the front desk. And then I realized later on that Anastasia also knew my ex-husband because she was pretending to be Charlotte Allison earlier when we were at the Home 2 Suites, when they were trying to blackmail us with revenge porn. So I was able to establish that Anastasia not only worked with Roger Ludinus, the hitman, okay, lived there, but Kayla Moore, the woman in the bunk above me, in the jailhouse, everything is divinely planned. But also with Rene Campillion, okay, who chopped up his dog into a million pieces. These are the kind of narcissists that we've been dealing with all our lives. And in this case, this is a clear edict that God had given me, that I was supposed to be working with these dogs, with Derek, and training. And this is how they tried to derail me, because in the end, Anastasia said, we need $15,000 for Charlie. We'll set up an account for him. for his training. And then she continued to extort us and blackmail us and send death threats. And when we wouldn't concede anymore is when she filed a false statement with Jennifer Turner. And Jennifer Turner also had a couple of things to hide. In the end, they all worked with my ex-husband and Christine Sears-Peete. Because, you know what, and I hear this message all the time. They were waiting for us from the day we were born. And they knew that this was what we needed to do. And so I'm living in my car. I'm manifesting this because this is my first mission. We are to work together. And we are to raise dogs for sufferers from PTSD. And not necessarily soldiers. Okay? Not necessarily soldiers. But in the case of my husband and my dog, they are soldiers. But Derek is a beautiful person. And he's been bullied all his life. You know, he's bullied by white girls at the Planet Fitness just because they don't like the way he looks. Bullied by people like my brother. And told, you know, he's going to sick his cop friends on him if he shows up at the ATM. And then all of a sudden they produce this Photoshop version of him standing there at the ATM. I know it's not Derek. And, you know, Derek has had to fight for himself his whole life. And he likes to pretend that he's a tough guy, but he's not. He's a very sweet guy. He's not a pedophile. He loves children. He loves dogs. And I'll give you an example about his ability to communicate with animals telepathically. And that is when I took him to Discovery Cove. We went to SeaWorld, and they said, you know, you can swim with the dolphins if you go to this place called Discovery Cove. And it's actually a really cool place. Very relaxed. You pay a big fee, but you can go in there, and they give you a wetsuit, and you can spend the whole day. And so he got to swim with the dolphins. And the one dolphin that he got to swim with, the trainer was telling him a story. Because I was sitting, you know, I was kind of sitting taking pictures. I didn't want to get wet. I didn't want to get my hair wet. And I had the camera and everything. And so I'm taking pictures from afar. And I see this squirrel there. The squirrel's just sitting there eating his nut or whatever it was he was eating. And while Derek's out there swimming with this dolphin, the trainer tells him a story about how that squirrel that hangs out there was in the trees. It was hanging out in the trees, and it fell into the water. And so the dolphin picked up the squirrel and brought it to safety on shore. And that's why that squirrel hung out there. And that night Derek had a dream. And it was a nightmare. And so he woke up, and I said, what was the nightmare about? And he said, I dreamt that I was in a tree and then I fell into the water and I was drowning. And I said, you dreamt that you were that squirrel? And he said, yeah. Because he's able to communicate with animals on a level that many of us aren't. And that is why this plan for him to work with Charlie was such a healing thing for him. And it was derailed by a bunch of evil people who wanted to take that out of our lives. Because that is our mission. And so I'm trying to decide, what am I going to do? Because I'm a writer, you know. And my plan all along has been to write this children's book, The Incredible Snout of Major Charlie Peete. And in the end, he has a house with a backyard. And instead of sniffing for dead bodies and IEDs, he's able to enjoy the sunshine free and smell the flowers. That's the book I wanted to write. And the book I wanted to write that would benefit caninesforwarriors.org and the Gulf Coast Humane Society where we adopted him. That was my plan. We were going to use those proceeds to benefit those organizations. And it was derailed by evil people who stole the money from a very good organization. My brother not only did that, but he emptied out my account and moved to Ecuador. And I discover now they've all been deceiving me out of property on a trust I've owned since 2009. In the end, to destroy us and to take it from us and to steal our destinies by doing evil things like chopping up our dogs. And so I now have to decide, what am I going to do? I'm out of money. My husband's in jail. I have to pay his legal fees to get him out. I don't have any more money to help him with evidence. The FBI, I know, is watching me, but I haven't seen any reward money. I don't know how long it's going to be before I claim that house, if I'm going to claim that house. And I can't let Charlie live with me. How am I going to pay for his kennel fees? It's more than half of what I get in my Social Security check, and it's all gone. So I'm asking you, if you appreciate my channel, and you know what, honestly, I don't know with YouTube if I'm ever going to get support from anybody on YouTube, because, you know, in the end, Google is the one who makes the money. The evil people at Google, you know. And so I'm just putting it out there. I want to see this dream come to reality. This is the new moon now for me to manifest the one mission we are supposed to do together. I need legal fees to pay his very good lawyers, by the way, who are also going through their own trials and being targeted by these evil people for the work that they do. If you can Cash App me, I have my Cash App account numbers, and I also have a PayPal account. I even have a P.O. box. You can send me a good old-fashioned check. I'll take whatever I can get. You know, I said, why is it that, you know, when I play my guitar, I open up my guitar case, nobody comes around. Derek says, they're too afraid of the snakes, even the FBI. And I keep saying, well, you know, the FBI, the snakes are for the good people. The snakes are for the evil people. I don't want to lose my dog. And I don't want to lose this dream. And I don't want these evil people to win. Because in the end, it's all about healing. And people who have no scruples, that they would just steal dreams from good people who are trying to help heal the planet. It's just cruel to chop up a dog out of spite. What kind of spirits these people have? So I'm asking you, okay? I keep begging for money and nothing ever shows up in my Cash App account. But I need help now, because I don't want to lose my dog and I don't want to lose my husband. We're meant to do something really good. And I want to write my book. So I'm going to spend, I'm going to check out Charlie on tomorrow. And I'm going to spend some time with him and take some photographs of him to use. And I don't know if it's going to be a book. It could possibly be a video. It could be an animated video. I have a new channel. I'm still going to do inspirational adult stuff on this channel. And FBI evidence if I come across some. But I do have a new channel, and that is Lotus Lee Kids. So it features my old book, Huggly Buggly and the Magical Fart of Wind. Full length, it's 18 minutes. And it also has my big fish story. Where I'm on Michael's property and imagining a conversation that's going on between two ducks while they watch a gray heron try to swallow a big fish. And then I have a couple of my animated music videos where I was doing my doing songs and I needed background vocals, so I put in some Adobe Character Animator cartoon puppets where I sing background with myself. And so there's a bunch of things there. There's my poem from Wacky Rhymes called I Don't Like Babies. Okay. And I'm going to put up some more Wacky Rhyme stuff, and I'm going to put up some new stuff. So I don't know if it's going to be a book or a video. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I need to figure out something for funding. I might do a Kickstarter campaign. So stay tuned. Maybe by Monday I'll have something ironed out. But I'm just asking you for donations now. So I'll give you all of the information, and you can send money to me. And I'm praying that this new moon, I'm able to manifest the things that God has asked me to do. And he has specifically told me this is a mission that we are supposed to do with the dogs. I need to get him out of jail. I need to get his record expunged. And I need to stop, and I need to rely on God to help stop these bullies from derailing us. Thank you for watching, and have a blessed day.